Lewis Hamilton confirms Mercedes sabotage. It has now been confirmed. Not directly did Lewis Hamilton say that he is being sabotaged, but he did make it clear he has been driving a different car to George Russell. What a surprise. It's not as if I called this out weeks ago. It's not as if I called it out months ago. It's not as if we've been talking about it all season. Who is surprised now that Lewis Hamilton is driving a different car to George Russell? Because I certainly am not. It is about the least surprising news to come out of the Qatar GP. Then, I don't know, that the fact the Queen's dead. Like, it's obvious. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And the people that deny it because they don't want to see the truth. They don't want to understand that George Russell is not the pedestal driver that he is being put on by Toto Wolff and Mercedes. It's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out for Mercedes over the course of the next few years once Lewis Hamilton leaves. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Formula One content coming to the channel. Got season reviews, season previews, all sorts coming out over the course of the next few months. So make sure you've got that subscribe button turned on and the notification bell to stay tuned for all the latest content. Now, I'll put the clip in the video so long as it doesn't get copyrighted. And
the cars are quite different.
Hamilton told the media that he has been driving a very different car to George Russell. And does it surprise me? Absolutely not. I mentioned it after the Brazil race where Lewis Hamilton was snapping and skidding and steering. He was absolutely destroyed by Mercedes that weekend, and George Russell was just practically on a Sunday drive in the rain. It was ridiculous, and we've seen it time and time again this season, and there's a lot more than just the car which has been a problem over the course of this season. And I've got to call out Bono, Peter Bonington. I have to, because over the course of the time frame where Sky Sports have been able to put up driver onboards, I've watched every single race from the onboard of Lewis Hamilton, and over the course of the last few years, Bono's been brilliant. He was excellent up until Silverstone. Silverstone was the last race where Bono, in my opinion, had a good race as a race engineer. The races after, the mistakes that he's been making, the lack of information he's been providing to Lewis Hamilton is the polar opposite to how it's been for the entire time period of their relationship as race engineer and driver. And it is a massive shame to me. And I think you can see by Lewis Hamilton's demeanour that it's getting to him too. A lot of people were talking about Lewis Hamilton being on the grid for the Formula One Academy and things like that. And I also think this is another thing. It just shows that Lewis Hamilton isn't being involved in conversations anymore. Is that surprising? Absolutely not. He's moving to Ferrari. Makes no sense for him to be involved in in-depth conversations about how they're going to move the car forward and things like that. I get it. But the problem is when then you've got team members who aren't doing their jobs to the full extent that they can do. And ultimately, do I think Lewis Hamilton clocked out? Yes, absolutely. I think he clocked out at Spa, in my personal opinion, because I think it was shown to him then that Mercedes would do anything to stop him being successful this season. And obviously, Lewis Hamilton did end up winning the race. But Mercedes threw out the biggest Hail Mary. Bono was talking to him in braking zones. It was a ridiculous race. Bono didn't even tell him that a one-stop was a potential option. Bono didn't tell him that George Russell was going to one-stop. And Bono would have had that information. Now, Lewis Hamilton confirming what he's confirmed this weekend doesn't surprise me. I know for a fact that if George Russell was driving that same car, George Russell would not be doing the things he's doing right now. He would not have qualified on pole. He would not have been battling for a podium or anything like that. I know that. You all should know that as well. And a lot of people will probably come and call out British bias. But the problem is, George Russell is British too. I personally don't necessarily have a problem with George Russell. I think he's very calculated in what he says and what he does. I think in front of a camera is very different compared to what he probably is in real life. I think we've had that confirmed this weekend from Max Verstappen. And I think if you look at the way Lewis and George interact across the course of their time period together, in my opinion, you can tell that Lewis Hamilton doesn't mess with George Russell. He doesn't particularly like him in that capacity. Now, if Lewis Hamilton was to see this video, he'd probably turn around and go, oh, that's not true. He'd say, oh, me and George are friends, blah, blah, blah. But I think actions speak louder than words. And we've seen that across the course of Lewis Hamilton's career is teams, especially Mercedes, 2016, teams mess with him. And he gets no backup, no defence. Toto Wolff has never defended him, has never looked out for him, has never stepped up for him when he needed to. The biggest showing of that was 2021. Lewis Hamilton was in line to leave Mercedes after 2016 because of how he was treated. A lot of people seem to think that the thought of sabotage, the thought of a team punishing a driver doesn't happen. It happens all the time. It's happened at Alpine with Esteban Ocon. It happened with Fernando Alonso a few years ago at Alpine, when towards the back end of the season, he got nothing. And that's what's happening to Lewis Hamilton. Is it a surprise to me that Mercedes has done this? If I looked at it without the names and just say driver 1 is moving to rival 1, would it have surprised me that they've treated the driver this way? Absolutely not. But does it surprise me that the most successful driver in the history of the sport, the most successful driver and team partnership in the history of the sport, and the team has decided to ruin it all? A lot of Lewis Hamilton fans and Mercedes fans were looking forward to a Lewis Hamilton farewell tour this season because everybody knew about this in February. It was published, it was announced, it was released. And the big problem that we've then had with that is that the farewell tour has gone to absolute shit. Toto Wolff and Mercedes have done everything they can to stop Lewis Hamilton beating George Russell. It's worked, absolutely it's worked. And it's not surprising. When they talk about the drivers, you understand where Lewis stands and where he's stood this season. So it's a very interesting topic, very interesting talking point. You can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I know a lot of people are probably going to be a bit unhappy with this video because I'm talking about Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes sabotage, and a lot of people think that that's impossible. But these are complex cars. Just one screw not being screwed properly, just one pipe not being put in correctly can mess up entire performances. We saw it in Baku with the suspension not being built correctly. And would it surprise you really if I told you that a driver was leaving and the team didn't give them the best possible opportunities? To me, absolutely not. We've seen it year on year on year. It is not a surprise in the slightest. It doesn't need to be a surprise. All I think it does is show that Mercedes are scared of losing Lewis Hamilton because they've got to do it. They've got to do this to give themselves a chance of keeping sponsors, of getting more sponsors, of even potentially trying to give George Russell a pedestal for a championship fight. But is it going to happen? No. So hit that subscribe button down below, turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next video.